to the gallery, you go to view. All right.
Mm-hmm. Hey, how are you guys doing? If you knew what it took for us to get here, you would know how determined. I'll let Dr. Trenton tell the story before we get into his interview. Dr. Trenton, go ahead and tell the people the story of what we went through to get to this interview.
I can tell you that we've gone through like 15 different streaming processes, and also just going from one streaming service to now Zoom, and then trying to figure out how to record. But now we are here, we are started, and we're going to get this thing happening right away. And we're excited about this opportunity to talk about mentorship and the power of mentoring. And it's very, very important for us to know that I think mentorship is very, very valuable. And so I have some things to share about that.
Yeah, and before we get started, I kind of want to talk about the character of Dr. Trenton. I can see why he's a mentor. He's very patient during the process of us not being able to, get into the first platform. He never complained. He was proactive. He was like, let's try this. It's okay. We're going to get through it. So I feel that those are really good qualities when kids do have a mentor. And I'm just excited to conduct this interview with somebody of his caliber. So let's get straight into it. Dr. Trenton, could you please talk to everyone about your organization and how you play a role in mentoring some of the people in Memphis, or some of the males in Memphis?
So what we have is the Brotherhood, which is an organization that was started by Mr. Curtis Weathers. And Mr. Weathers and I used to work together at a different school. And he introduced me to his brainchild many years ago. And now he has taken it and run with it, basically. And I mean, he's involved in several schools around Memphis and Shelby County. But in our school, we are the largest chapter. And I am, of course, the chief recruiter for our particular campus. Mm-hmm. But it goes beyond that, because I go outside of the school to help Mr. Weathers to build a brand, because I talk about the Brotherhood everywhere I go, because it's important to me that young men see an example, someone that they can inspire them to do more, not just what they see right in front of them being boxed into their neighborhood, or boxed into their household, or boxed into that idiot box that we call being on the television. It's more to life than that. You have to step outside of the norm. And we, of course, if they don't see it from us, it's hard for us to come and say, well, you can do this, and the other, but we're not setting the example for them. So it's important for us to set the example. And so we try to do that every day with mentoring these young people.
Okay. So I know we talked about it previously, but what is the age range of individuals that you work with?
From 4 to 400. And I say 4 to 400 because that pretty much gets everyone. When you're 4 years old, you ought to be able to comprehend pretty well. 400, I know we don't have anybody 400 years old that I know of, but we don't want to miss anybody. Anybody that needs the mentoring process, we try to offer it to them, because people think because you get to be an adult that you're beyond being mentored. That's not true. I'm 46 years old and I'm still being mentored today. I was speaking with one of my mentors earlier before we had this process, trying to start the process today, but it's just important. I think it's just valuable that you're able to have a conversation with someone that can give you advice about certain things that you're going through. And the amazing thing, it doesn't mean that because I'm older that I can't take advice from somebody younger. I could be mentored by someone younger than me. It all depends on where I am, mentally, physically, spiritually. I just need an opportunity to speak to someone that can kind of get me on the right track when I feel like I'm slipping, or if I feel like I need some advice, or if I feel like I'm not going in the right direction. This is something that I need, someone that can just, and not be judgmental. That's important too, because a lot of times people are judgmental and they don't listen. You understand what I'm saying? That's like when you talk about me being patient, they don't know how to listen. You got to be able to listen to understand where a person is. Old adage used to say, if you've never been where I've been, how are you gonna know where I am? Understand where I'm coming from? And that's real.
So when did you start getting mentored in your earlier years, and how do you feel it helped mold you into the man that you are today?
I think I started being mentored January 22nd, 1976. That was the day I was born. From there, it's been, I mean, I come from a family that's very, very tight knit. And it was important for us, for those young men in our family, to have someone put a hand on their shoulders to say, hey, this is what you can do. These are the paths that you can take to be successful. And when I say successful, I'm not talking about just going to college or getting a job. I'm talking about being a productive individual. I'm talking about being someone who can be an inspiration to someone else. Because I think the thing that many people miss is our job is not only to be as successful as we can be, but we are also to give back to the people that are coming behind us. We have to show them that this is a path that you can take. I've jumped over certain hurdles so that you don't have to jump over them. But because I've jumped over them, let me explain to you why it's important that you might want to avoid certain pitfalls. Because it's very easy for a person, and you know this as well as I do, going to a school like Tennessee State. You can go to Tennessee State and it's easy to get drawn into everything that going to Tennessee State has to offer. But you have to remain focused. One of the things that I always did was I wrote on the mirror in my dorm room, graduation. So no matter what I was facing, I had to, this is my goal. I got to graduate. I have to graduate because that way I have some foundation. But you know, some people get lost in the shuffle. And so it was important that my uncles and the mentors that I had growing up were always in my ear and calling me, checking on me, saying, hey, how's school going? How are your grades? You know, what can we do for you? What do you need? And that was important. And so we have to keep pouring into young people, and that's valuable for them.
Okay, so you speak of the Tennessee State University. If you guys didn't know, I graduated from TSU, the best college ever. So how was your experience with going to TSU and already having mentorship, but going to an HBCU, and then, you know, what was your experience like going to an HBCU and being mentored at an HBCU?
I will tell you that initially going to Tennessee State was a bit of a struggle because, you know, coming from a environment where you had someone to tell you when to get up, what you needed to do, why you're not at school, what homework do you have, you know, what time are you going to go to bed, this, that, and the other. And then being on your own and 18 years old, it was like culture shock, like, wow, oh my goodness, what am I to do? And then you have the understanding of, it's like hits you like a ton of bricks, like, wait a minute, I can stay out as late as I want. Oh my goodness, I don't have to report to anybody when I come in. And so you get lost, you can easily get lost like that. And I was one of those kids that I went through that season. It wasn't long, but I went through that season. I was like, man, then I looked at my mid-year grade report. It was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to have to go home. And so I had to figure out, you know, what was my next steps. And ironically, one of the people that was mentoring me called me and said, hey, I know your mid-year grades came out, you know, what they look like. And I had to be honest with him. And so he gave me this long list of things that I needed to do. And one of those things that was at the very top of that list is prioritize. He said, I don't want you to go to school and not have fun, because you're supposed to have fun. It's college. Enjoy your time in college, but don't let your fun cause you to sacrifice your final goal, which is graduation. And if you do that, then you'll be right back at home trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now? And you don't want to live your life with regret. And so listening to him talk to me about, like, you got to make some changes. You got to make them fast, because you can be one of those individuals who becomes not the standard, but a statistic. And I don't want you to be a statistic. And that was important.
Wow. Were you know, because you are from Memphis, were you exposed to a lot of statistics growing up, or were you pretty much around people who were just succeeding? Was it like a mixture of both?
Well, it's pretty much a mixture of both because I mean there were people in my school, we pretty much competed with each other in terms of academic success. You know, we pushed each other. I'm very thankful to the people who graduated a couple of years before me for motivating us to want to do better. But then there were also people who still to this day are still stuck in that box, and I still see them, and I'm still, you know, I still show love to them. I'm still appreciative of who they are or who they were then. I just hate that they can't seem to find their way out of that box, and that's something that's unfortunate. But it happens. It's reality. Are we going to be able to help everybody to move forward? No. Do we try? Yes, because our job is to serve, and it's important for us to serve at the highest level, and that's part of the motto for Tennessee State: service. And that servitude is very, very important.
Absolutely. Or my shirt. But so we I know prior to this call we spoke about mothers relating their negative experience with, I guess, their ex, and then using that to down their sons. What advice would you give to those mothers as far as how important it is to have a positive male role model in their son's life, as well as not bashing their child's father to them?
I mean, you know, in regards to that, I always tell the mothers that I've spoken to that it's important to build your young son and even your daughter. You need to build your children up, build them up, and by building them up, what I mean by that is, you know, don't spend your time speaking negatively about their father. Same thing goes for a father talking about a mother. Don't spend your time speaking negatively about the mother to the children. You don't plant those seeds. Whatever issues you had between one another, those are your issues. Because guess what? Ultimately, the kids see it anyway. They don't need any help pushing along, trying to build this brand of hatred toward the other person. You need to just build like, look, you're going to be the best person that you can be. One of the things that I read several years ago was that in the Black community, we have an issue with seeing successful relationships. And a lot of people come from households where they don't see successful relationships. And it's difficult for them to know what one looks like. So we want to make sure that we build a bridge. And when we're talking about building a bridge, we want them to see that, hey, this is possible. Success is possible in anything that you do, whether it's school, whether it's your relationship, whether it's on the job, whatever you're doing. I mean, you can have success. But again, goes back to what we're talking about with mentoring. Parents don't realize that when they have a successful relationship, that's a part of the mentoring process. Let me take it a step further and unpack it some more. Even when they're having a disagreement, their children need to know how to have a disagreement and get past it. Because when they don't see that, if all they see is negativity, 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 when they get in their own relationship, what do you think they're going to exhibit? This is all they know. All they know is yelling, fussing, cussing, screaming. So what are they going to do?
The same thing. They're going to replicate that behavior.
It's a possibility. Now there are some cases where people's like, I'm just not going to behave like that. But if you're going to be in a relationship, if you look at the relationship that you know, this is the relationship that you see the most, and you don't want your children to grow up thinking that this is how you're supposed to respond to everything. The first thing I'm supposed to do is cuss my spouse out. First thing I'm supposed to do is go off on my girlfriend or my boyfriend. That's my first response. Instead of talking things through or trying to figure out, okay, how can we get past this? Am I saying that people won't have disagreements? No, because we all have them. But how do I effectively get past point A so I can get to point B?
And one of the things that I've noticed within the Memphis community growing up, a lot of us glorify toxic behavior. So I feel that a lot of us we don't know that it's toxic. We just think this is our way of doing things. So I think reprogramming ourselves to know what the right and wrong way to have a disagreement is would be great. So as far as the brotherhood goes, do you guys work hands-on with parents?
Yes, we
Okay.
work hands-on with parents, talking to parents about goals and responsibilities for these young people, helping them to build their, it's basically we're helping them to build their brand. And your name is your brand.
Mhm.
Shamika Baxter, that's your brand.
Absolutely.
And when people say your name or see your name, they need to know that that name means something. No matter what anybody else has told you, no matter what anybody else has given you, no matter what anybody else has tried to put out there, your name means something. And you need to be able to stick up for your name. When a person asks your name, you should be able to stick your chest out and with all the fire that's in you, say your name with confidence because it's yours. And because it's your name, it means something. If it means nothing to anybody else but you, it means something. And
Absolutely.
that's what we tell parents. That's his name. That's her name. Make sure they know that that name has value because ultimately it's not for anybody to stick on a billboard saying wanted. It's not for somebody to put in the newspaper saying committed this particular act of violence or robbery. Or this name means more than that. And they have to understand that that's a part of them helping us build the brand for their children. So they have to set goals, and that's important.
As far as, so in layman's terms, if you were to talk to a person that's like, what is mentorship? What is that? How would you describe the word mentorship?
It's just inspiration.
Mhm.
That's all. I'm inspiring you to do more than you may have thought that you could do. That's it.
Mhm.
The bottom line, that's all it is. Some kids don't think they have a chance. They don't think they have the opportunity. And it's because no one has come along to grab them by the hand and say, hey, it's possible. I remember working in a juvenile court system and I was in a class and a young man told me I might have been a preacher if one had approached me. And that's something that stuck with me a long time. And it still is something that plays in my mind. Like, wow, maybe if a preacher had walked in his neighborhood or he'd been exposed to one, because all he knew was to be at home. See, his mom didn't take him to church. His mom didn't put him in that type of situation. And I'm not saying that that's the only way it can happen, but it was one of those situations where he felt like, hey, I never was exposed. So all I saw was gang membership and drug dealing. That's all I knew. And so he was exposed to that. That was his ministry. And so, of course, ultimately it caused him to be incarcerated. And that's unfortunate. But with him telling me that, I was like, wow, we got to make sure that we get directly involved in these young people's lives. And we got to do it early. Because I promise you, no matter what track they take, if you're really, really inspiring to those kids, they will never forget it. Even when they get in trouble, they'll think about that one person or that those two people that inspired them. And they'll be like, man, you know what? I got to reach out or I got to do what Dr. Watson said, or I got to do what Dr. Pointer said. And I'm just using him as an example because he's one of my mentors now.
So is there a difference? Because I know some people may discipline their kids just for everything. Could you give some examples of what is a good situation to discipline a kid versus, they may need some tough love and just, this is bad. You shouldn't do this. Because some parents discipline for everything and that can drive away rapport.
A lot of times we have to look at what is it that we have told our kids to do and not to do, because a lot of times parents question themselves. And I tell young people this all the time: parents will question themselves if you make a mistake. They're asking themselves the question: did I not tell them that this was wrong? But if you never told me that stealing gum out of the candy store was wrong, and I do it, then you want to jump down my throat or you want to corporal punishment, whatever. It's like, I had no idea this was the wrong thing to do. So it's important, parents, that we have these conversations with our kids prior to let them know these are the things that you're not supposed to do. These are the things that can get you in trouble. And more importantly, and I say this with this generation and in my generation too, and previous one as well, you cannot be your child's friend. That's a no-no.
Mm.
You and your child are not friends. Now, when they get to be an adult and they have responsibilities of their own, mainly having children of their own, then your friendship line can get a little closer. But you still must remember you are the parent. And as the parent, you have to make decisions that are going to be lifelong, life changing, life altering. Because if you see them going down the wrong track, it's your job as a parent to say, hey, let's bring this back in. Because maybe some things I missed. But it's important to do that because some parents just want to discipline them for everything. And all they're doing is saying, I can't wait to get out of this house. I can't wait till I'm grown. And not realizing that, yeah, when you get to be an adult, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not as easy as you think. So it's important that you understand that there's some things that you need to know before you get out into that world. And that's what we have to do as parents. We have to teach them because once they get to be an adult, we go from parenting to consulting. It's two different things. And as a consultant, as a parent, we say, this is what you're going to do. When you consult, you say, if it were me, this is what I would do. So that's the difference.
Okay. As far as parents, let's say a parent they know that they've been getting it wrong and they feel their kid is going down the wrong path. How can they reverse that cycle of, man, I've been getting it wrong as a parent. I want to start getting it right.
It's important for parents to listen to other people because there's no book that tells you how to be a good parent. There is no novel, there's no workbook that says that you're going to be perfect. Even the Bible tells you that there's going to be sometimes you're going to have some issues. It happens. But your objective is to train up a child in the way, here's the operative word, they should go.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say they will go, but they should go. Meaning that you're going to do all you can to pour into them. But sometimes you need a little help. Sometimes you need a mentor. Sometimes you need somebody that they can trust because you've been in this situation and so have I. Everything I don't really want to talk to my parents about. Some stuff I'm just not comfortable with talking to them about. And there needs to be somebody that I can just be comfortable with saying some things to and not worry about them necessarily being specific, going back to tell my parents. They may go back and talk to my parents about, certain things to try to help a situation. But in terms of giving them everything, nah, we want to just be able to say, hey, we need to put you in a room with somebody that, that you feel comfortable with, somebody that loves you and wants to see you be successful. And that's important because parents, again, we don't always get it right. I'm not a perfect parent. I wish I was, but we all have issues. If we had time, I can tell you 1,000 stories about what it means to be a parent and have some struggles. But at the end of the day, I had to get advice too.
So since you said you've had struggles as a parent, could you give an example of a time where your kids did something you didn't necessarily agree with and how you dealt with it or how you handled it? Or even as a mentor or something one of your mentees did that you didn't necessarily agree with and how did you handle that situation?
Well, I can tell you that, even with one of my children choosing the college to attend, of course, he had an opportunity to go to Tennessee State, but he chose to go another path. But ultimately,
oh, how dare he? How dare he?
That's where he's going for grad school, so it's okay.
Great.
But ultimately, it was a situation where when he went off, he thought that things were going to be smooth sailing and easy, and the work wasn't going to have to be required. And he found out very, very quickly that that's not the case. And so I always would tell them, it's important. Whatever you do, just tell me the truth so I can help you. And when you don't give me the whole truth, even when you are omitting things, that's pretty much a live omission. And when you're omitting to tell me stuff, I can't help you because I don't have all of the information. But thankfully now we're getting on the right track and doing what we need to be doing to be successful down the line. And we'll be thankful to graduate in August, which will be great. And then, of course, move on to the greatest institution in the land on next year.
You ought to be ashamed. So how do you garner respect from, because it seems like you're respected by your children. How do you gain that respect, or how would a parent go about gaining respect from their children?
One of the things, like I say, one of the things I listen to, the things that they have to say. And I tell them, as a person that listens, I expect you to listen to me as well. And of course, it's always in a way that I try to carry myself to be an example. In the way I talk, the way I address certain issues, and the way that I respond to things. I'm not the person that yells and screams and fusses, and because I don't do that. Everybody's not the same, of course, and everybody doesn't have the same process and procedure for dealing with issues. But that's just me. But at the end of the day, I want kids to be comfortable, to be able to come to me and say something and not feel like I'm going to be judgmental about the things that they do. Now, am I going to raise an eyebrow sometime? Yes, because some things just may not make sense. But I always tell them to make it make sense to me. If you make it make sense to me, then we can try to get through it. And that's important. I do that with my own children as well, because I want them to give me an understanding of where they're going or what they're trying to do before I give them my opinion about something.
Okay. So you would say communicate. What I've gathered from what you're saying is communication is extremely important in any type of situation. But when you're raising kids, the way you communicate to them, whether it be good or bad, they're being molded. So you have to be mindful of how you communicate. And also, like you spoke about the games earlier, something I was speaking about to one of my friends, I was like, whether it be good or bad mentorship, kids are being mentored by somebody. You have to make sure they're being mentored by the right people. You don't want, I'm not getting attention from daddy. I'm not getting attention from mama. I'm not getting love or attention from anybody I know that's a positive male role model. So now these gangs are on the street and they're like, what's up, little man? What's up, baby girl? And I'm getting love and attention. So now I'm in this situation. And once you get in that situation, now you may not be able to get out of this situation. And a lot of them may not know what they're getting themselves into because they don't have guidance in the beginning. So I love what you guys are doing with your organization. We're about to wrap it up, but could you give the viewers more information about your organization and how to connect with you? And also the cost. Is there a cost with this organization?
So the Brotherhood, any information that they want about the Brotherhood, they can go to www.thebrotherhoodb2m, which is boys to men, b2m.com. And the cost for the Brotherhood is 0.00. This is not a on organization. We are not asking for that. People donate money, things, material, supplies, resources all the time. But Mr. Weathers has done a phenomenal job of putting packages together to take care of these young men. Of course, if we go on field trips or out of town or something, may have to be some compensation given in terms of that. But other than that, no, we're not doing, that's not what it's about, which is one of the reasons why I love being involved in the program, because it's something that every young man in every school can be a part of. There is no, well, you got to go through a rigorous test to be involved. No. This is just a program that's about impacting young people. And don't worry, the sisterhood is forthcoming.
Wow, that's awesome.
On the next level. And like I say, it's a part of making sure that our young people are impacted across the board. This is needed, period. Not just in Memphis, not in Shelby County, but period. our young people need the most impactful people in their lives as possible. And that's what we want to do. We want to be positive role models for these young people.
Is there a cap on how many people can join your organization at this? So there's no cap. So if anybody's wanting to send all of your kids, you can enroll all of your kids. Also, what are the operational times? So what's the time of operation?
Well, Mr. Willis right now is involved in the school process in terms of he has times that he goes to the school. But if we grow to a certain perspective, we'll have more people coming into the buildings. Now, right now, he goes to those buildings because of the numbers that is very manageable for him to do so. But of course, we do have Saturday sessions. Our Saturday sessions are at the community center, McFarland Community Center. And the young people come, and unless we have a community service project, then they'll go out to various areas in Memphis and do community service. But again, it's not about a cap. It's about our young men being able to have access to positive male role models.
And also, as we wrap it up, we got a couple more minutes. Where is it located? Where are you guys located?
So again, we have one location that we're using for our Saturday sessions, but it's not necessarily a location because you have chapters in all of these different schools.
Okay, okay, cool.
We were able to pull from all of those different areas. Now, if we got one kid at a specific school, then he'll be more likely to come to our Saturday session.
Okay. All righty. Thank you so much, Dr. Trenton, for your patience, for your words of wisdom, and everything that your organization has to offer. Thank you guys for tuning in to Dear Shamika. We will see you guys soon. Represent Big Blue TSU.
All day.